Ute. I'm Miss Dale Velvet Rose, and today we're actually going to do an oil change on my VY Storm Ute, and we're also going to clean out my K&N filter and give it a wash out and put some more oil on it. But as I said in the previous video, that you don't do this unless you've had experience in doing it, or you have somebody to guide you along that's had experience doing it. Because you know there's certain things that you need to make sure you got the right parts, and you need to do it in the right way, and you need to make sure that things are screwed up properly and all of that sort of stuff. So particularly when we're doing an oil change, because you don't want the bung to fall out and and you have no oil in your car. So that's not a good look. So what we're going to use today is we've got nearly dropped it, Ryco oil filter. Now this is the appropriate one for my car, and you actually have to look up the book when you're at somewhere like Super Cheap to actually pick out which one's appropriate for your car. We're also going to use a washer when we pull out the sump plug to make sure that it reseals properly, so we just went and bought those today. I also will be using this tool, which I actually use to wrap around the oil filter to pull it out. We'll show you how we do that a bit later when we get into that. Looks like a bit of a lasso. And I've actually got some gloves that I bought today that'll hopefully protect my hands a little bit, because we're actually running the engine at the moment. So and it's not ideal that you do stuff when it's hot, but we have to make sure all the oil gets out of the system, because you don't want it all sludgy and stuff, otherwise it'll take forever for the oil to come out. And so we're also, because we're going to be under the car, we're going to be using the trolley jack to jack it up. And always when you jack up your car, you put axle stands under it, and even I also put the wheel, if you're taking off a wheel, you can also put the wheel under the car, so that if something happened and the jack slipped or whatever, that it's going to come down on the wheel instead of on top of you. And this is my oil that I've got here that we're going to put in our car. And this is the oil that I always use, and you should always use the same brand and the same grade and so forth at all times in your car. Okay, and we've also got the special stuff here that we're going to use when we clean out my air filter on my car. And we're cleaning out my air filter because it's a K&N filter, which we can clean out each time, but most filters are actually made of paper or some flimsy material, so you can't actually wash those out so much. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. So we'll go off and get ready to drain some oil. Thanks. We've actually jacked up the car. I got Mr. Noel to help me do that, because I haven't had any experience with jacking up a car in order to get under and service it. You should always have somebody who's experienced to help you jack up the car and make sure everything's in the right place. We actually jacked it from the side because we're on a bit of a slope here, and the jack couldn't grip, and we couldn't actually get the car to raise at all. So we've actually used the jacking points that the manufacturer asks you to, so that you're not bending anything, and particularly when mine's got a body kit on it as well, you don't want to be bending any of your nice side skirts or front dam or something like that. So we've actually got the axle stands underneath it, and Mr. Noel helped me do all of that. So yeah, always make sure that you've got someone to help you do that sort of thing, because it can be dangerous if the car falls on you and things like that, or the car rolls away. The handbrake is on to make sure that it stays, and you can even put chocks under the wheels as well to make sure it stays. Okay, so what we're going to do in a minute is we'll get ready, and we've turned the car's engine off now, so that the car should be warm enough now in order for us to be able to drain the oil and so forth. And we're about to get under the front of the car and undo the sump plug so that we can drain the oil, and hopefully won't have any spillages, because I've not done this before. So that should be interesting. So we've got our little pad here that we're going to use to climb under. You can use a creeper, but because we're on a bit of a slope here, I'll probably end up looking like the luge guys in the Winter Olympics, and that wouldn't be a good move. So we've actually got our bucket here that we're going to use, and we'll also have a socket spanner. We either one of these guys that we'll use. We'll just test which one works well on my car and see how big it is. Oh, what?
Rags.
Oh yeah, and we've got some rags. Mr. Noel's signalling me. And we've got the rags that we'll have ready in case we have a bit of a spillage, which hopefully we won't. Okay, so, and also at the same time we're going to pull out our oil filter out of our car, out of my car, so that'll actually make it drain the oil a bit more as well, because the air will be coming in from the top. And we actually use it like this. So we pull it on so it's tight like that, but you don't squish it, because you don't want it squished, because it has all little filters inside, and you use that to actually twist it and so forth when we get it off in the car, and also to tighten this up when we put it in there. Okay, so we'll get ready to pull the sump plug out from underneath the car. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. And we'll put my gloves on to make sure, protect my hands a bit, to make sure that, because it might be a bit warm under there and hot after the car has been running, and hopefully not get oil on my hands. Thanks, we'll see you in a minute. Hi everyone, I'm about to hop under the car. Mr. Noel has actually drained most of the oil out for me, so because I've never done it before. So I'm just having a bit, this is kind of just a practice. I actually didn't realise how hot the oil actually was, so I don't advise even doing it hot. I just do it with it when the engine is cold. It'll take a little while longer for the oil to drain out, but I think it's much safer to do it, because you don't want hot oil running down your arm if you happen to, you know, not get it all out at the same time, or, you know, drop the plug in the bucket. So, so I'd advise not running your car beforehand, and just do it cold. It'll take a little while longer for the oil to drain out, but much safer. Okay, so I'm going to hop under the car now. I've never done this before, so that should be funny. Off I go and see how I go. Oops. So this is a 3/4 inch socket that I've got, and I've probably just light in the oil. So we're going to go round anti-clockwise with our little socket spanner. Oops. And we make sure we've got the ratchet going the right way, which I don't know that is. Yes, it is now. So I've kind of got my finger on it a little bit to push it on and give it a bit of pressure. And I reckon I can just pull it out with my fingers now.
Bucket.
There.
Closer to me. Okay.
So I've got my gloves on, so that if anything was still a bit warm under here, and hopefully I'm not going to get sprayed oil in the eye. So now the oil's running out, and I'll just wipe my sump plug off. I'll move the bucket over a bit because it's not flowing as much as it was. And you can see how black my oil is. It's about 1,000 k's over what it should have been, so it's about 11,000 k's since it had its last oil change. So while that's happening, we're going to hop up and take off our oil filter now. So I'll just hop up. Okay, we're about to pull out our old oil filter out of the car, and also we're about to put in the new one, and you can see that this new one's got a plastic on the end, and you don't want that, otherwise it's not going to be filtering too much. So it's just a plastic wrap, which hopefully you can get off. which is going to be a bit tricky. Oh, got it. It's like, you know, one of those things on your makeup that you have trouble getting off. Well, that's what it's like. So then you can see inside it, and we'll pop this in the box to get rid of the rubbish. And that's what we're going to put on. Now we're going to use the tool which I explained earlier, and we'll get the old one off in a minute. And the old one actually has oil in it also still, so not very much, probably about as much as what the size of the oil filter is, so not a lot. So what we're going to do is put the tool on like that, and you can see here that we can actually pull it in like that so it's a bit tighter. You use a little teeth like that to kind of go like that to undo it, and when we want to do it up again, we'll reverse it around like this, and we'll kind of go around like that and get it to do up like that. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do next. So I'll pop under the car and I'll do that and get my oil filter off so that then we can put this new one on. Cool, thanks. Oh, I should put my gloves back on again because I'm still mucking around with hot oil, or warmish oil it will be. But as I said before, you don't want to be doing this. I don't advise doing it with warm oil. It was alright for Mr. Noel because he's experienced at doing this sort of stuff, but I'm not so much. So I'd rather work with cold in case you do have a spillage. Okay. Oops. So pop back under here, and my footy cat's going to come and help me. So getting the tool on. Oh, when you're hitting the eye. And you pull the little strap so that you can get it tight-ish without being super tight. Whoop. And now you want to go upwards. Slipping off a bit. Get awkward under here. Not much room. Getting things off.
That's the wrong way.
Huh?
You're tightening it.
How? Aren't I going anti-clockwise?
Turn the strap around.
Oh, okay. Didn't think so, but anyhow. Apparently I'm going the wrong way. And you need to have a bucket ready too, if you need to. Oh, now it's... Oh. But I'm now going the same way.
Yeah, go pull it towards the front of the car.
Huh?
Pull the handle towards the front of the
Oh,
car.
I'm backwards still then. My old holding wasn't this hard.
Need to tighten that strap a bit.
Yeah. Oh, crikey.
That's better.
Hard getting this tool in the right
Yeah.
spot. But,
Okay, you should be able to do it by hand here.
and you want the bucket ready because there's going to be a little bit of oil come out.
You've moved the bucket, look from where you need the bucket. You need to put the bucket back where it was.
Oh, why?
Well, that's where it drips from, where the seal is. More in, more in, more.
In towards you?
Towards the engine.
Oh.
No, to the left. No, move it to back where it was to start with.
Oh, I don't know.
Move the bucket more. Move the bucket closer to the sump, please. Okay, that's where it was. That's where you need it, and it should be able to turn that filter now. And when it starts dripping, then let it drip and hop out the way.
Hang on, I've got it.
See where it's going to drip? That's where you need your bucket where I told you.
Yeah.
Okay, when it starts dripping, and just hop out and leave it. Let it drain out a bit. And we'll let that drain for a few minutes.
Our sump plug here that we've just put a bit of elastic around. I had to think what it was. And we've also got our new sump plug there that we're about to put back in the car, because this is a very important thing to do, because if you start pouring the oil in the top, it will pour out the sump plug and that won't be good. And you have to make sure that you've got it in firmly and it's sealed well, otherwise you'll be dripping oil all over the place and that'll be no good. Okay, so we'll hop underneath and put this in, back in. I haven't got my gloves on this time because it'll just be easier to coordinate all of that, and plus this elastic, it could stick on any clothes or anything like that, so you want to make sure that you've got it away from all of that sort of thing. Whoop. And I fall over into the car. Now we can probably get the bucket from under here now, I'm presuming, because we don't want our new sump plug to end up in the bucket. We'll just put it there for the minute. Oops. Okay, so we're going to screw that back in. Hang on, I'll get around better. So you go clockwise to screw him back in. And you get him as tight as you can, finger tight, because that's easier than having to fiddle with tools. Wipe my fingers before I get my little spanner. Now I've already flicked the ratchet to make sure it's going to be going the right way. Move in a bit tighter. It's still a bit warm on the sump, so just watch where you're putting your hands. And I might get Mr. Noel to just nip that up for me to make sure it's tight enough, because as I say, the last thing you want is that plug coming out as you're driving along the road, because your engine will seize up. We're about to put our new oil filter on. So what you do is you actually put a little bit of oil or a bit of grease or some Vaseline on here so that it makes the seal easier, and also when we try and get it off the next time, that all of this won't all stick to the engine when you pull it off the next time. So we're just going to come into the oil container and we'll just dip the finger in. Don't know how deep it is. If I've got a long enough finger. No, I don't. I have to put 2 fingers in. That's not even going to be long enough. I'll tip it over. This is the problem you have when you have short fingers. Why don't they make oil containers for girls that have delicate fingers? Oh. So not piles on there, just enough. So that should be enough. We'll put the lid on in case I come back around and trip over it, and that wouldn't be a good look either. Okay, so now I'm going to hop back under the car and put this back in. without clonking my head. Now this will be, oh yes, I can see where it goes. But just getting it up there. It's going to be a hard bit around there. That's better. And so we're going to screw it on clockwise. And with an oil filter, you don't do it too tight, but you want it tight enough so it's not going to fall off when you go down the road. Because you don't want to squash the filter either. So I'll just get our little tool. Here it is. Now hopefully I'll get it on the right way this time. I think so this time. Oh, gotta get it tight. Am I going the right way?
Yep. Keep going, I'll tell you when.
Just seemed to move a lot more than I thought it was going to. Oh, maybe it's slipping more than anything.
Not tight enough.
Yeah, I don't think it's going too far, but I'll get Mr. Noel to just double check that for me.
And nip it up a bit more now. You mightn't have enough pressure from underneath to do it.
It's awkward to get the tool in there.
Sometimes it's better from the top, sometimes it's not.
Yeah. Because you got your pipes and stuff in the road, so you can't kind of get the grip properly.
No, I'll do it.
I think it's actually the strap slipping. Are you going to do it from your end?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are now, we're about to put our oil back in. We've got our guard on our car so that to make sure that no belt buckles or whatever scratch on the guard. So first thing we're going to do is to actually take our oil cap off. Usually it's, I've got a fancy one because I like the pretty colour, but normally it might just say oil with a little oil can thing on, like Aladdin's lamp. But unfortunately if you rub it you're not going to get a genie jump out, so that's a bit of a bummer. But why isn't it coming out? Probably because I'm going the wrong way, am I? Now it is. Not enough muscles. Okay, so it comes out, looks a bit like a radiator cap or something like that. So I'm just going to pop that up there. So then we get like a funnel, because otherwise if you're pouring out of the oil bottle it's going to be a bit hard, and particularly when it's quite heavy at the beginning, yeah, to like angle. And if you're ever trying to pour something out of one hole into another hole, it can create a mess. So you always make sure that there's no dirt or crap in the bottom of the funnel, and that's actually got a filter in it as well. You can play music. No. Mr. Noel's making a funny face now. Okay, so we'll pop that in there and make sure it's fairly secure. We might actually put a rag there just in case we have a bit of a spillage. Oh, there you go. It's a bit straighter. Now, the oil that we've got to put in the car, as I said before, is the oil that's recommended for my car, and it's always the same oil that goes into it. It has to be the certain grade and the certain amount of, I think that's like the different minerals that might be in it to help the alloy engine. So you always put in the recommended one, and we know if you look up in a workshop manual, it doesn't actually tell you in the owner's manual for the car, because they probably don't want you changing oil and so forth. But you can just do it. Mr. Noel has told me that usually it takes about 5 litres, so you don't want it to be putting in too much more than, because putting too much oil in your car can actually make the engine work too hard, and that's no good either. So we've got about 5 litres here, so we'll put that in and then we'll dip in the dipstick and just see if we've got the right amount of level. Okay, so we'll give her a whirl and hopefully not make a mess. So I always pour kind of sideways rather than the normal way, and just only little. Don't go wild. And we'll let it drain down a bit. So it's going down as it goes in. You have a better chance of controlling where the flow is going to be if you've got it sideways rather than straight up and down. So I'm just waiting for it to drain in. So you can sing a song or something while this is happening. But I'd always help my dad do all of this bit. My dad, Bob, do these sort of things on the cars, but I'd never actually been under the car and pulled the sump plug out or anything like that. So that's the first time I've ever done that. I used to help him get the oil filter out because I could get that from over the top, but in these newer cars you couldn't, because my first car was like a HD Holden, which is a 1965 Holden with a 186 engine in it. So it was like much cleaner and easier to work on than this one, which is actually a V6 3.8 litre. So we're nearly at the bottom, and we know this is like 5 litres, so we can safely put that in and know that it's not going to overflow the car. Because when Mr. Noel first got the Camaro, the dipstick wasn't very good in it, so it actually appeared like it actually had too much oil in it, and that could have caused it a few dramas as well, because it'd end up with oil in different parts that it shouldn't have oil in. So nearly to the bottom. But you might notice on your car, if you've got a more modern car, that it actually has like a big plastic cover over the top. Well, I actually took my plastic cover off the top because it actually made my engine get a bit hotter when I was running on the drags, but also it actually made my engine look easier to like understand, because I'd used to seeing, you know, the old 186s and so forth, and once I took all that plastic cover off, I could actually see, oh yes, it looks very similar to my engine, although 186 is a straight 6 and this is a V6, but you can see the similarities, and particularly with the, you know, old school V8s, you can see V6, V8, but this is fuel injected rather than having a carburetor on the top, and electronic ignition. Because we learned in the last episode it doesn't have a distributor, it has coil packs. So nearly at the bottom, not much more. So I actually enjoy doing jobs on cars and things like that, even just little jobs, because it's different to what I normally do. And so as I do this little series, you'll be able to learn different things, like I'm learning different things as I go along. Like I'd never changed the oil before, even though sort of I knew in principle how to do it, but as I said before, I wouldn't do it hot again. I'd be quite comfortable to do it cold. So yeah, I would advise to always do it cold when your engine's cold. As I say, it'll take longer for the oil to leak out, but much safer. And probably, if you have a spillage, it won't pour out as quick. Just getting the last bit out. Mr. Noel's giving a bit of a hand. We're going to lean it there. On the side here, we've actually got our sticker. Can you see that through the video? We've actually got our sticker, which we'll pull off and put on our car so we know when it's next due for service. And that'll be like 210,000 Ks we'll put on there when it's next due for an oil filter and an oil change. So we'll stick that on the windscreen and get the other one off. I mean, we can change it in the computer and all that sort of stuff, but I'd rather just old school stick the sticker on the window. It's easier to keep track of. Okay, so we might dip and just see how we're going with our oil level. Oh, this is a cool bike shirt here. Okay, so we've got our dipstick here. If you've still got your engine cover on your car, you can probably see it's one of the little yellow bits that they let you still get hold of. You notice most things on your car that you're allowed to touch are yellow, or depending on what colour. But you can always look in your owner's manual if you can't find where it is. It usually has engine oil or something written on it. In my car they're all yellow, but other cars may not be. So we can see here that we've got the operating range is in the hatched level here. So if it was below that, we'd have to add more, but it's in this level here, and it's not too tall. It's not way up here. So we should be good to go. So that literage should be fine for my VY Ute. Whoop, can't get it back in. Need to use two hands. That would be good. And also, when you're dipping your engine oil at the service station, just be careful because it's hot. And like, I advise just carrying a little rag to do that, because I did it at the service station the other day when with that crappy paper that they have there now. And I actually got a burnt hand from it. So I obviously wasn't thinking, but I thought the paper would be okay. So always do it with a rag, because it'll protect your hand a lot better when you're scraping it, taking the oil off. Because if you're driving around town and then getting to the service station, well, then it's obviously going to be hot. And obviously I wasn't thinking. So we'll come back over here and we'll see if our oil's finished draining. Yep, looks pretty good. We'll just wipe the end. And we'll just grab the filter, the funnel out in a minute. There's my lid.
No, put the funnel in there.
Oh, okay. I'm being told by Mr. Noel that we put the end of the funnel, which is very smart, see? So we just get it really quickly so we don't drip all over the place. Okay, so now we wipe around the edges, because otherwise, if we've got any excess oil that's dripped, we did a pretty good job there. It didn't really drip too much at all. And try not to put any dirt in there, because that'll be no good. And then we'll put our oil cap back on. And it just locks almost like your fuel cap. So now we've finished that section. So what we might do is go on and do our air cleaner and give it a bit of a clean in a minute. So I'll see you when we do that. Thank you. Now that we've done all of that with our oil change and our oil filter change, we're going to actually clean our air filter now. So I've got my K&N Power Clean, which I'm going to use to clean my air filter. And then once we've given it a bit of a hose and so forth, we'll actually put some oil on it once it's had a chance to dry and so forth a little bit. We'll put some oil on it, and that's actually how the filter works. It actually, the oil helps it, all the little bits and pieces, to stick to the oil as it goes through the filter, and that's why you can keep using it. And it's actually, as I said, it's not a paper one, which, excuse me, my behind side. So same as we did in the last episode, we're going to pull out our air box, but we don't have to pull the whole air box out. all we're going to do is unclip the sides off, because all we have to do is get out our filter. It helps if you take all the clips off. And then see, we can just get in and get our filter out. So, oops. So you can see how grotty and dirty it is. It's actually supposed to be sort of off-white really, almost like that side, but it's looking pretty grotty. So what we'll do is, we'll get our little cleaner and we'll read the directions, which it doesn't really say on there, but we'll actually spray. It probably says it on the box. If you read the box, it actually tells you what to do, but what we'll do is we'll give this a spray with the cleaner, and then away from the car in case there's some overspray and it hurts your paint. And you also spray it away from you, and so that the wind's not going to blow back in your face either, because that wouldn't be very good. And so you actually give it a pretty good soaking and try and get in to methodically go along each little section. It's good wrist work. Don't be afraid to overdo it, and you will run out of cleaner before you run out of oil. Oh, we are running out of cleaner. Yeah, so that'll have to go on the shopping list next time we go to the part shop like Super Cheap. It's alright. Yeah, see, it's nearly run out. It's good wrist workout, as I said. And so we'll let it give it a bit of a soak, and then once it's had a bit of a soak for a while, we'll give it a hose. Okay? This resting for a while, just so all of the cleaning product can get into the air cleaner and dissolve some of the crud and crap that was in there. So now we're going to just get the Common Garden hose and give it a bit of a hose out. You always just, you always just clean it the way the dirt came into the filter, because it sucks through. Go really close so that you can get through all of the little fibre bits in the cleaner, in the filter, and you give yourself a cool shower while you're at it. I think that's probably pretty good for that side. This side, you don't want to push all the crap back through the other side, so I'm just going to go on sort of an angle. And you can see it's starting to look better already compared to what it was before. But by having a filter like this, it actually saves you money, because while the filter initially cost me like about $90, and I think the cleaners and stuff cost about $30 every time I buy them, but you don't buy that every time you do it. But, you know, a normal filter might cost you about $30 every time you do it, and you usually change the filter every 20,000, about the same, 10 to 20,000 that you're doing about the same time as you're doing your service. Okay, so that looks pretty cool, cleaner than it was. But what we're going, I'll turn the tap off. But what we now have to do is give it a bit of a bang out. And you have to let it dry for a little while. About an hour. Today's not a very good drying day, so it might take a little bit longer than that. So we'll just leave him here on the step to dry. Now I also wanted to talk a little bit about the oil that we had, the dirty oil that we had from the car. You don't put that in your garbage bin, because that's not what you do, and you can get in trouble for doing that. You can take it to places like Super Cheap or Autobarn, or there's other companies that actually collect the motor oil, so you can drop it with them. But I think you can actually take it out the tip, but it might cost you to take it there. Mr. Knowles saying no, but you can just drop it in at Super Cheap. Mr. Knowles just popped it back into the actual new oil container that we had, so that it's ready for us to just drop out to Super Cheap. Okay, but never put it in the bin, never pour it down the drain, nothing like that, because you'll actually pollute the area and that won't be good. Okay, so yeah, so even though I'm a petrol head, I'm also a green petrol head, and you don't want that going into the oceans. Okay, so we'll leave this dry for a little while. Okay, and then we'll come back and spray it with the oil. Okay, so here we are the next day now. We've left the air filter to dry overnight after we cleaned it with the K&N Power Clean, and we also gave it a hose as well, so that we got all of that stuff out of it, and then we left it to dry overnight. Well, you don't usually need to let it dry overnight, but the drying weather wasn't very good yesterday, so it was a bit rainy, so we left it overnight to make sure it was dry. And so now what we're going to do is to give it a spray with foam air filter oil, so that this actually allows the all the stuff that comes in through the intake to stick into the filter, so it doesn't go through into the throttle body and block up things. So we've got, you don't spray it on that side, you spray it on the side that it's actually going to filter through. The air will come through here and then go out there and into the throttle body. So we'll just give it a bit of a shake, and we give it a little spray like that. Spray it away from you so that the wind doesn't come back and you end up with more oil on it than the air filter. And now what we're going to do is we'll go back over to the car and we'll pop it back in the car. So I'll see you in a minute. So we're here with the airbox. We've obviously got this still off from the day before. So we're actually going to pop this back in here, and we make sure that we got the little tangs lined up here. And we actually put it into the air filter like this. And it won't go in if it's not in the right spot. So I've probably got it around the wrong way, because it's not going in. Oh. No. I'll get it in a minute. It's a bit slippery, I think. Oh, it helps if you don't have all the leads and the cords in the road. And, oh, that's better. Just have to tuck it down in, and you make sure that the little lugs are in the right spot. And hopefully I can get this in a bit easier than in episode 1, because it was a bit of a nightmare. I'm just checking to make sure there's no leads stuck in there and stuff. And then we should be able to clip on the little tangs. Oh yes, going on easy. Oh. I must have everything in the right spot, she says. Now to the last one, which is always stubborn. Yay! And I've got it all on, so now it's all ready to go again for another probably 10,000 Ks. The next time we do the service, the oil change and so forth, we'll actually clean the oil filter again to make sure it's all good. So thank you, and we'll see you next